Just 1 second. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We are right now in this process of just getting going in doing a new thing. Who here loves a new thing? Woo! I do. We just planted our church in Huntington and Costa Mesa, Orange County, that whole area, and we met at Vanguard University just 2 days ago. And I did this painting here of OC Fire, of the way that we see things and our vision. And there's a surfer in there, Amani. Amani loves the beach like I love the beach, and how you have to get into the waves in order to find your destiny. And the fire of God comes on us when we do that. And Amani Hanson has an incredible story. So this is called Create Forum. If you're new, every single Tuesday, we talk about a creative expression. And what we do is we want to empower you to see how to create with God in a certain creative genre, whether it's art, music, dance, or writing. And we want to give you the tools that you need to actually see a demo, to actually see what's happening. And so Amani Hanson, welcome. Give it up for Amani. Hi. And guys, too, we love for you to be activated. So if you have any art supplies, I mean, just a simple sketch pad with some watercolors or some colored pencils, whatever you have that would bring colors and would bring images or backgrounds. We're talking about that today. And we're talking about how you can grow in that. So that's kind of what we're doing here, which is so amazing. Rodney and Sonia, yay. Rodney and Sonia, you're going to be joining the www.facebook group. And so you can go ahead and close your computer and then you'll find it via that. So don't go to this link. So yay, those are some of my wonderful people in Create Academy, which you'll get to know in just a second. But again, I love what God's doing right now. He's doing something that will take us by storm. He's doing something that will, aren't you excited about what he's doing and what he's about to do in the things that are happening? I'm just like so thrilled for what God's doing. But share a little bit about like your background and what God's doing in your life and how you got started in art. Amani, people want to know. So let's yay.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I've been painting for, I should have added up, but maybe 15 years or so. I started drawing in high school just because I didn't want to take any of the other electives and discovered that I had a gift there. But it wasn't until I did a painting workshop. It was like a activation weekend. And we learned to hear from God and paint. And it was the first time I'd ever really used paint before. And I'm like, this is what I've been waiting for. The dry media was really fun to work with, but I found with paint, I could express so much more. And, you don't have to have details or anything. The color can say a lot on its own. So yeah, that's when I started painting, was back doing that workshop, and just I got hooked. So I started my own team at my church because I was just wanted to share it with other people. And so we started an Arts on Stage team, and real basic. I think most of my beginning pictures were just abstract because I didn't really know how to do anything else. And then through the years, it just developed my skills. And yeah. Oh, I can't hear you.
I mean, you have to start somewhere. You have to be in this place like Amani's talking about where you are moving forward, where you are doing what you love. I mean, in these creative forums, we want you guys to realize like we're all in process. Like all of us here are in a place where we're growing, where we're discovering who we are. And there's that aha moment where paint comes alive. There's that aha moment, like you talked about when all of a sudden you go, I need to do this on stage. Wait a second. I need to do this for people out in the marketplace. But there's so much that God gives us through this that it just goes into incredible places. And so we want you to just dive in. If you haven't heard, get some art supplies, whatever you have, water, colored pencils, any kind of thing. If you just have a pencil, grab that, because we're going to do an activation in just a second. But Amani, what I loved about your story is like you understood that art was a part of what you can do with God as well. Like when I was painting this on stage at our church on Sunday, it was like, oh my gosh, it's like, it's not only is the worship a part of music, but the worship can be a part of the dance and a part of the art. It's all speaking to people out there. And it just kind of shifts and changes the way that we think. And it's so beautiful. And it just comes alive. And I mean, you don't want to stop. Am I right?
Right.
Guys, in the chat, like talk about what you love about art that you've seen on stage, or what you love about art that can prophesy or speak. That means to bless, speak into people's lives. Like, how have you been impacted by either someone's expression, or maybe through what you've done, like Amani has in church? It's just huge, the God story and what he can do. The thing that I love about this thing is what process do you go through when you create a piece of art? And look at the back, guys. Isn't her art beautiful? So this is some of her pieces that she's done and previously, but what is your process?
So usually I start with a really vague impression. I just have a feeling that either I know I'm going to be painting on stage, so I need to get a feeling,
Yes.
or if it's just in my own studio, it starts pretty vague. And so I just kind of, depending how much time I have, I lean into that and just, okay, God, what is it? Ask questions about what he's saying. And then I start to sketch some things, just like very, very rough, just to kind of get some ideas maybe of placement. And once I have a rough sketch, then I start looking for sources. So I'll check on Pinterest or Pexels or just Google, looking for something that feels like it has, the look that I'm going for. And from there, I'm also looking at what colors feel right to communicate what I'm saying. Sometimes in my sourcing, I'm seeing like, oh, that's a really cool effect. I want to bring that into it somehow. So I'm kind of just like grabbing pieces and letting it kind of ruminate, like just sit with me to see, okay, how is this gonna come together?
Yeah, I just want to camp on that, because people are there needs to be and I know, like Amani, you understand it. It's like when you have a relationship with a loved one, whether it's your child or your husband or wife or those closest to you, it's like it's a building relationship where you like do something special for them, and then they do it back for you, and there's this like there's this interesting dynamic of a give and take. In the same way, a lot of us look at our relationship with God as, okay, he comes, it's over, and then I'm whatever. But it's not that way. It's what Amani's talking about. It's a process where, Holy Spirit, what do you want me to create? Like for a person or for a church service or for something. Oh man, I'm going to look on Pinterest. Oh wait, okay. How I really felt drawn to this image. Let me look more about who this artist is. Or you start to, like, I would say you have to open up the scope of your imagination. You have to be able to begin this process of seeing, well, what is God saying? And then I would say the only way that I describe it, Amani, is like you have to almost open up and go into the Chronicles of Narnia, go into the wardrobe and look at what God is saying through what you're going to create in a different way. And so it's not like I just play with Pinterest or play with, like what you're talking about, But I also asked God, tell me more about this concept that you think that I need to do and what God's going to do. And then there's this huge thing of relationship. It's not about me creating something that I know I can render well, but it's about me going, oh God, and then you want me to do this? Okay, you want me to change that? So there's also that openness. Have you found that out too? Has that been your process too?
Yeah, I love that you said that, because I've been thinking a lot about that process of how sometimes when I'm sketching it out, I have my initial idea. Like say God says, yeah, I feel to paint a rose. So maybe the first thing I think of is like a single rose in a vase. Then I'll actually like do some thumbnail sketches, just little sketches, and think, how could I do this differently? So I'm asking God, okay, what is it about the rose you want to highlight? Or, is it a close-up? Is it a bunch of roses? Or somebody holding the rose? You're asking God, and just also using your imagination in that to see how could I like branch beyond my initial idea into something, a new kind of look and a new idea. And that's where I really feel like God shows up, is like something like, oh, I never thought of that. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
I love that feeling. Wait, that's not like when I was doing this painting, it's like I saw this picture of this girl in it was like a photo surrealism, and it was just the outline. I go, oh, I need to paint the beach in that scene. I need to put the beach in there right where she's looking, because her vision is her imagination. It's like you get these aha moments like you're talking about, and it's like, bam, it's just like God just comes in. Becky has a question for you about how do you choose the colors? Like what is the process of not only choosing the actual shapes and design, but I mean, because your paintings in the background are so beautiful. So how do you choose the colors?
I'm really thinking about the feel that I want to communicate. So like one that I just recently did for the conference, it's called Awaken. And like if you look on my Instagram, you'll see it. It's a face with angel wings over her eyes and her mouth. And that one is all in neutral tones. And you see, like I'd like to use a lot of color.
I love it.
But that one I really felt needed to be in the neutrals. And I felt like it was about the peace, and it was about being grounded. And like this one here is a painting that I did for Africa, to bring awareness to a ministry that my family has in Africa. So of course I'm using tones that feel authentic to that. And then this one was about coming alive. So I'm using, really vibrant tones. So I'm thinking about what it is I'm trying to communicate when I'm picking the colors. That's the most basic. And then that's also one of the things I love to do with God is just asking him, like, okay, especially when I'm starting, what color do I start with? Exactly. Where do I put it on the canvas?
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. So guys, isn't that helpful? Like and I love the fact of what is the tone, what is the feeling behind it, and using those colors to accent that, to make that highlighted. Another person was asking about, how did you get involved in portraits? When was that aha moment where you go, oh, I don't want to just do abstract, but I want to bring in a face? So share about that.
I think that would have been actually when I did, well, actually way back, I guess, when I was in high school. I was, I think, in 11th grade, and I went back to visit my old high school, and they were all doing art. So my art teacher was like, grab a magazine and pick something to draw. So I did. I found a portrait and I just drew it, and she was like, oh my gosh, did you just do that? And I'm like, I guess so. That's when I kind of first was like, wow, I love this. And I ended up My sister has 5 kids. I did portraits of all of them. This was in pencil. And then, had other requests for similar. So that was before I began to paint. And it's funny how God, uses these little nuggets to tie it together, because it was many years later before I ever tried painting a portrait. I think maybe I tried and was like, oh, that was terrible, and gave up for a while.
Yes.
But then it just came out again when I was in the School of Illustration in Kona. It's a 3-month intensive art school. And we're really practicing, like, planning out your pictures. That was something that I hadn't done before. I did everything spontaneously with God. So then I was like, oh, you can actually do a lot better when you plan it out. And so that started my journey of trying portraits again. And then right when I finished school, I did a piece. It's actually called Peace for Africa. And it was to bring awareness to the child soldiers. And so I had 2 portraits in that painting. And that was when I felt like, wow, this is what I'm made for. Like, the combination of the justice of the people. And then I had a lot of abstract and poetry, and, it was a very, like, mixed media type piece. But yeah, it was kind of this journey.
It's almost like I just have to tell you guys, like, because Amani knows, I mean, I've raised up a lot of portrait artists, and there's people like last year, there were 2 of my my interns that had never really, they'd painted, but they'd never done portraits. And the one girl, Lacey, did 2 portraits for a big event that we had called the Faces of Reading. And she just, like, it was like she found her sweet spot. Now she's in a school right now, an art school, Amani, pursuing that. But it's kind of like, it's like you create something and then you see what happens. Like, how do people respond? How do you feel inside? And so it's not like her first portrait was like her favorite portrait, but she got to see, through doing ones for her family, doing ones here, there, she started to see, oh, this is something that I really love. And then you can expand your repertoire. It's kind of like learning an instrument, isn't it? Like, yeah, I mean, some people go, oh, you can just play that guitar, like, and you've never had a lesson. Oh my gosh. Like, and then that creates a desire for you to learn more and to craft it more. Susan had a great question. Susan asked, she said, are the details, when you're into the details, and you ask God questions, like, have you always done that? Is that something that you've been learning, or how has that worked as far as asking God for those details?
I think that's also something I've grown in over time. Is that was also kind of an aha moment I had during the School of Illustration. I was doing a portrait of my husband and I wanted to do the kind where it was all different colors. So the face had a bunch of, yellow and blue and green. And I had tried to kind of figure out how to make a reference with it on the computer, and I couldn't figure it out. And I didn't have any experience with that at that time. And so I just sat down and started, this was in color pencil, started drawing, and I was like, kind of freaking out about it. It was an assignment. And then I just felt settled in, like, okay, God, what color? Where do I put it? I was like, yellow there. So I was like, oh, okay. And I did that throughout this whole painting. I was just like, kept asking and loved the result. It was really cool. And so that was like a defining moment to me of seeing, like, God really does care about these details, and he's with you in the process. And sometimes you have to really, it's one of those, like, practicing hearing God. Like, most of the time it feels like your own idea, but you're just trusting that God's with you in it, and that that idea to put yellow right there is him, and you go for it. Just try it out.
Yeah. I love that. It's like one of the things I love, Amani, is like, it's kind of like, it's like a good example would be, because Amani has some small kids. I have small grandkids, but the example is like, when they're around, you have to have an ear open to find out, what are they doing? Like, what's going on? You're present doing something. It could be drawing, whatever, but you also are very much aware of them and their needs and what's going on. And that's kind of what you do when you have this walk with God. And sometimes I love what you talked about, because sometimes we really have to practice that. One of the things that we're going to talk about right now, for those of you that are just coming in, we're so glad you're here. We're talking about Amani's journey, and she is going to do a demo in just a little bit. If you have any questions, please put those in the comments there. But and my team will also love to help you with those comments too. But I felt like I had a defining moment when my mom came to visit me, Amani, and I was in our first year school of ministry. So it wasn't, I led after that, but it was the year that we were just in the school. And I was learning about not performing for approval. I was learning about painting just because I loved it, which is a different concept for a lot of us that feel like, oh, I have to be perfect when I create. Anybody have, like, put up your hands, your feet, maybe your everything? Like, Amani understands that like I do. And so she's like a great artist, my mom. And so I knew that she would critique this art piece that I'd just done. And I was just learning how to create in God's presence. And so she came, sure enough, she goes, you could have done this, you could have done that. And I said, wait, Mom, I like it the way it is. And I felt like a 20-pound boulder just came off of me, Amani. And if you, like, maybe God's going to do that for you today. Like, I'm not here to impress anybody. I'm here to be in the presence. And from that adventure with God, I find my peace. And so when we create, and we're going to have you guys create as well, it's not about trying to be perfect. It's not about trying to be like Amani as an artist, or somebody that you emulate or whatever. It really is about you learning to trust God's presence in you. And then the skills can grow. The things like the portraits can grow, or the abstract stuff around it can grow. But if you don't find that, you'll be constantly striving to get your identity met through your craft. And that's not at all what we see biblically. David didn't play and go, oh, God, is that good enough to play to see the demon release Saul? No, he just knew that it was the right thing to do. And in the same way, God really cares about the process of you creating with him. So that's a huge one for a lot of you. So it's not about the finished product, but painting with God is very different. So share about that process in your own life. And, when you started on a commission piece, or when you're painting at a church or an event, etc., break it down, how the Holy Spirit works through you, and how you start that process, so that people get to see how you have battled with that, but how you have moved into a place of peace when you create. You have some great stories there, so go for it.
Yeah. So kind of going back to what we talked about before, of just like, okay, God, what is it that you want to say? Where am I feeling inspired? Sometimes God speaks in this really clear, kind of voice. And then other times it's really like trusting yourself of where what he's inspiring you in. Like, oh, I really feel drawn to the ocean right now, and so I want to paint the ocean, that kind of thing. It depends. Like, if you're doing a specific commission for somebody, then usually you have parameters, or something new that we've been doing at the church lately is working from a theme for a conference. So we say, okay, for example, the last conference we did was the prophetic conference, and the theme was entertaining angels. So I'm like, okay, God, what do you want to say about that? And honestly, I felt really stuck. And so I was like kind of leaning into, how does the angelic work? How is God speaking through the angelic? And how does that tie together with the prophetic? And so sometimes like the journey is a research based journey. And other times, a few months ago, I did a conference and I was just in worship and I got such a clear picture. I was like, I love it when God does that because it feels a lot more straightforward of like, okay. But so I take those pieces and then I'm asking God questions about that, like back to the angel piece. It was like, okay, so I feel like God's talking about the angelic and how it influences our daily life, and how do we partner with the angelic to bring the release of what God wants to do. So then I'm like, okay, so my first thought is like typical angel picture. I'm like, I know I don't want to do that, but then where do I go from there? So I'm like, okay, well, just kind of keep asking questions and keep trying out ideas. It's not always so laborsome, but I feel like there's a lot of richness that comes through that process, even when it's not as clear cut as like, oh, here's the picture, this is perfect. We gain a lot in that kind of wrestle with God, almost of like, what is it that you're really saying through this, and like diving into that. And so it finally clicked for me when I was talking to somebody else and just like processing my thoughts about the angelic and how I felt like, okay, God really wants to bring us to a place where we're seeing through his eyes and we're speaking out his words, and then the angelic is partnering with us to release that in the earth. So I created as I said that, I got the picture in my mind so clear of this space with the wing over the eyes and over the mouth, representing the way we think and see and the way that we speak, being influenced by heaven. So that's kind of like a behind the scenes look, I guess, at how the journey looks for me.
Oh, I love it. It's so powerful. It's so wonderful to hear your story and how God works, because that's how we find out all of God's greatness in our lives is by this journey of, okay, Lord, now what's next? Okay, Lord, now what's next? And then bam, God just puts the whole thing together. It is so amazing. I love God's presence and how he does that. I have, we're going to move on now. Are you guys excited? Again, if you have any questions, let us know too in the chat. We're going to talk a little bit about creating with God and this whole thing about preparing. What are you thinking about as you create? How can we bring God into this process? How do you lean into the Holy Spirit? This whole thing, what helps you engage? And what we're going to do right now, this whole thing is we wanted to kind of show you the process. And Amani has a video that she's going to show us right now about her own process and how it comes about. So give it up for Amani. She's going to share her screen, and she created this video that shares that process.
Every time I began to paint, I encountered God in such a powerful way that sometimes I barely even painted at all. My worship was raw and broken and deep. I cried, I screamed, I danced, and then I painted. And every brushstroke became a declaration of freedom, of rebirth. I felt like the deepest parts of me were being shifted and formed, and areas where my dreams had died or been buried, lost, were being reborn and unearthed. And God was just showing me pieces of who he's called me to be. I found myself just fighting for my voice through this piece. The lies that were wrapped around my throat were being torn away, and my warrior spirit rose up within me, fighting for truth, contending for healing, for restoration, breaking off shame. Deeper and deeper, his light went, drawing me into the truth of who I am and of whose I am. His gentle love, like delicate wings, beckoned me out of the shadows, inviting me to step into a radiant, unashamed, wholehearted existence.
You got into it. I love it how you added in the colors, how you added in, how you shared about the image and how you created that and God's that process. It is so spiritual, isn't it? I know Lori was asking about that spiritual process, but it is you got the music going, you got the presence going, you figure out what the theme is, and then you move into that, and it's just beautiful dance. I love how you were dancing at the end. That was so cool. It is like a victory when I did this painting at our church, our first service on Sunday. At the end, I was just kind of dancing because it's like there's so much power that happens, and there's so much breakthrough, like through your artwork that people see about freedom, about what you're thinking about. Like when I was painting this, I kept feeling like there's a breakthrough for people that had headaches. And if you have a headache right now, I feel like God's going to heal you. Both of ours have wings, like, something's going on. But there's something that happens supernaturally, because as we're in the presence, as we're creating, it starts to manifest when you look at that, when someone else looks at that. And so just Sunday night, we had about 5 people get healed of a pain in their head or headaches that they've had. And yay, Jesus, it's like, it's so cool that what we create is going to transform people. And that's what we want to see happen. We want you to know, like, you are partnering with the God who is the God of creation. He is the God who created you to create like him. You are co-creators, Genesis 1:27. We're made in his image. And so you bear that mark. So it's not like he's saying, oh, you better be afraid. No, it's more like, hey, there's an invitation for you to create. There's an invitation for you to let go and to begin to ask God what to create. And you can create something that no one else can. You're looking at Amani's work or my work and you're wondering, well, what can I do? You can do so much with your brush. You can do so much in touching people around you. Amani and I have seen countless people that are just in their beginning stages of learning to be a prophetic artist, and they paint a simple drawing and people get healed or transformed. I mean, we've seen it. We know it in 5 minutes. So we just release like you to not feel like you have to be afraid or you're going to make a mistake and somehow it's too much for you, or somehow you have to have years of experience or whatever. We just break that off of you because you have to start. That's the biggest thing. And you have to begin that process. And so one of the things that I'm going to do right now is it's just like pray for you. And then we're going to have a demo. But right now I pray. And whatever level you are as an artist, whatever level you are in hearing God, I just release upon you the grace to stop the inner critic, to stop the voices that have plagued you for years, that have made you feel like you're less than, like the comparison, all those different things, God, that we deal with as people. I pray that on this Facebook Live, that right now they would encounter you as a loving Father. And as they watch Amani create, that they would see the impact of what happens when we're in a relationship with the loving Father and we create through our art to see things shift and change. So right now, Amani, I would love for you to share about your demo, share about what you're going to be doing and the supplies you're using, and let's have some fun.
All right. Sorry. So I'm gonna start with a background, and a lot of my paintings, I'll just do an abstract background first. And then I kind of build the details on top of that. Like in the video, you saw how I was just putting a lot of color on there. And then sometimes I'll leave a space, like if I'm doing a portrait, sometimes I'll leave the space for the color of the skin to go on later. But a lot of times I just go over everything, and then I use those colors to incorporate it into the image. So I'm just gonna have fun playing with the paint and kind of see. I don't have an image in mind yet. I'm like, as we're talking, I'm like, okay, God, what is it that you want to say? I'm asking him these questions just right now of trying to sense like, okay, God, do we like go with an image here, or just do an abstract kind of background so you can see the fun. Honestly, the abstract, I think it is the most fun because there's like no expectation of getting like, I think like what Theresa was saying, we really can let that perfectionism take a hold of us, and the inner critic is always something that we have to like keep at bay. So it's actually the whole like premise behind this painting for me was saying, okay, I'm gonna paint a painting that maybe will never be seen by anybody. I'm just gonna take this time to dive in with God, to see what happens, to see what he's saying to me. And then through that process, it was really about finding my voice. On a lot of different levels, like as an artist, but way deeper, healing past trauma, all kinds of stuff like that. So it's amazing how just our simple yes of, okay, I'm going to put some paint on a canvas and see what happens, can turn into something, really life-changing, honestly.
Yep, I agree. Woohoo!
I have, I'll just check my computer. I just kind of have a bunch of stuff here. I'll pick it up. I've got paintbrushes. A lot of times though, I'm not using too much paintbrush until I get into detail. I love to paint with my hands. So we'll see what I don't know what I'll do, but spray bottle. This is one of my favorite tools. I've got alcohol, I've got salt, and I have just a variety of colors. So let's see, God. Ever since I first was kind of thinking about what I was gonna do, I kept seeing pink in the corner. So I'm just gonna start with that. I love to actually just put the paint right onto the canvas. So it's a fun way to just get it on there without getting too uptight. So I'm just like squirting it right out of the bottle. If you have a tub, you can use the popsicle stick, scrape it out. I'm gonna spray it with water. Got just like a hardware brush. So I'm just smearing it around, smoothing it out. But then what I love to do with this is create some texture, some like variety. So I'm gonna spray it with water, and I'm just gonna leave that for a minute while I go do something else. So I think I'm gonna do some yellow, so that sounds fun. And again, I think I'll just squirt it on there. I'm letting the colors blend, so it's kind of creating this really cool orange color. Just smearing it on. I'm gonna spray some right onto my hand. And then I'm actually going to come back over. So this is something fun that happens when you let water sit on paint. Hopefully you can see this.
Oh yeah, you can definitely see that. That's so cool.
You can do a really cool removal technique and it'll leave different spots. It'll leave drips.
So she's looking to texturize her canvas right now, and notice how the two blend together. So you have some oranges in the middle too. So they can blend into one another.
I'll just add some more water. I love the drips, so I'm just gonna let those happen. And then I'm gonna.
So that's just a paper towel, right?
Yep, just a paper towel. And this is fun. This is kind of happy accident. This paper towel has a pattern on it. So when I go over here and start dabbing, it's actually leaving like a fun kind of pattern that's just coming off the paper towel.
See, paper towels are very important. You guys should watch Simon Bull's Art Intensive if you want to know the power of paper towels. So yeah, so what she's doing is she's just like moving the paint around. She's taking off. So a lot of it is like applying and then spraying so that it's lessening. The paint is lessening on the canvas and it's creating more dimensions inside, which is beautiful. Isn't that gorgeous?
So I'll just keep kind of, let's try, I've got this rolly thing. Another fun way to move paint around. So we're letting go of perfectionism here. It's not about like.
No, we're not.
You're not like trying to. I mean, this could turn into like a really beautiful sunset or something, but right now it's just about having fun. I'm gonna spray it. I love doing this with the alcohol. You can put alcohol in a spray bottle, it's great, but I also just pour it in my hand and throw it.
Oh, great idea. Look at that. I'm learning something new. I've never done that, guys. And we have a question now. Linda is asking, are you using watercolors? No, this is acrylic.
Yeah, this is acrylic. You can do really similar techniques with watercolor. Watercolor and alcohol is really fun.
Yeah, Cabana asked what ink is Amani using. It's not ink, it's water. It's just acrylic paint. So she's using acrylic paint, a water bottle, everybody, paper towels, her hand, which I love, and alcohol. And again, you can have it in a spray bottle or you can just throw it on the canvas. Come on, who doesn't want to throw stuff on the canvas? Throw the alcohol, and then she's turning it around. So this is cool. So she's looking at it from a different style. This is awesome.
So this time I'm just gonna spray the water first. And then let's see, let's do some blue. Phthalo blue is my very favorite. So I'm gonna use that. So spraying the water makes it, first makes the paint start blending right away. It just makes so this time.
So now she's using a brush, everybody. So this is another technique you can do just with a brush. You notice how she's got the yellow moving into the
Yeah.
blue. It's creating more of that green, beautiful color there.
I love mixing colors on the canvas instead of, like, if I tried to mix this color on my palette, it would be a lot more flat. It wouldn't be as interesting, but doing it on your canvas gives you a lot more varieties. I'm gonna do some more throwing. I love to throw salt. So I just pour salt, just regular table salt. And actually I think I'll spray it. You want your paint pretty wet. And then throw salt at it.
Aren't we the salt of the earth? See the water of the Holy Spirit. Come on. You got the salt. It's coming on. And see how see how that coagulates. Get a little bit closer. The computer, and let's let them see how the salt begins that process. See how it brings more texture to it right there. You can kind of see it. It bubbles it up a little bit right there. So it's going to add a different texture than where she had her others. Again, the only medium she's using right now is acrylic. She's adding in some alcohol spray. She throws it out in there and some salt as well. And now she's adding in more water. So water is a big key for you, isn't it, Amani?
Yeah, I love to treat acrylics kind of like watercolor to start with, or inks, give it that flow and movement. It's really nice to have a transparent, I'm working with transparent paints, which means that you can see the light of the canvas through them.
Yeah.
And then I build up to the opaques. I use more solid colors later, like once I'm trying to, if I'm trying to create a certain imagery.
Yeah. So you're building it up right now.
Yeah. So then with the salt works best, honestly, if it's laying flat, but most of the time I've got my canvas up, like if I'm painting live or something. So that's where I discovered the throwing.
I love it.
Hope that you don't get somebody
Get salt in their eyes.
Yeah.
Look, I'm at the ocean. I've got the water and the salt. Amani, come on.
That's right.
We're both going. I'm speaking in Kona at the YWAM base. So you're making me think of the water, getting in the warm water, Amani. Like, I love it. We leave on Saturday. So what she's doing is she's throwing it more. She's looking at that. Oh, good. That shows more. So she's got more of the water. So the more water you have, the more that the salt will begin to do different things like that. That's just huge. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? That's just with salt, you guys. It's in your kitchen right now. Get it out if you want to experiment, guys. We're going to have you do a demo, and we have about 2 more minutes,
Okay.
Amani. So she's going to.
Let's see. Let's just do one more. Let's get some.
What color is that?
This is raw sienna.
So that's just a raw sienna color. So now she's adding that out. Those are just, oh, and she's got one of those guys. Okay. What are those called? I forget.
What is it called? It's basically like a spatula. It's probably
It's a shaper.
Yeah.
It's a shaper. Yeah.
But you can also, I mean, you can use anything with a straight edge, but
Yeah, you could use a spatula. You could use anything. So now she's putting that in.
it's kind of just another fun way to get your paint moved around the canvas. And then I'm looking for something that's going to have a kind of sharp enough edge. Spray it a little more. So I'm just using, this is just like, I use the end of my paintbrush a lot and just kind of drawing, like, where did my little thing go? Yeah, just another way of adding some lines and designs. Some people call it painting in tongues. I think that's what Lynn says.
That's what Lynn says is right. So that's just the end of what is that you're using?
That's just the end of, like, I use the end of a paintbrush
or anything.
Yeah.
So it's just to get that lick of like a scribble. But yeah, Lynn does that a lot. You'll be seeing Lynn on here too. But now she's just adding in more. So she's blending. So this is like the blend. So blend your colors in, blend in what you're doing. And now she can look at the shapes. She can decide on, does she want to do a portrait over this? Does she want to, what kind of image she wants to do over that? So this is cool, isn't it, guys? Look at what you're learning about the shaper, about the end of your brush, about the salt in your cupboard, about the alcohol that you have somewhere for cuts or whatever. Think about the things that you can do just with what you have in your own kitchen or your own house right now to see this, what beautiful work just happened. And so she's adding in more. She's just playing in more. Wow. Give it up for, yeah, give it up for Amani. Woo! I mean, I'm cheering, guys. Did you love that? Let us know what you thought about that. Now comes the fun part is we want you to play. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to take you on an encounter where, and then Amani's going to draw something in that for a couple of minutes as well. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have you just ask Holy Spirit, like what's happening inside of you. So to do this, the best way to go on an encounter with God, if you don't know Jesus, he's just he will be there for you. And my wonderful team who is on would love to talk to you if you want to know him more. But all you do is just close your eyes and we just say, Jesus, come. You know, he comes to us in so many different forms. If we read the Bible, you know, he came to them on the storm and he quieted them and he got them and he made this whole entire like ocean just stop because of the presence that he carried. He was able to walk on water. He came to them when he was needed the most in so many different ways, and he's coming to you now. And Jesus, we just thank you for your presence with us today, for what you're teaching us about colors, what you're teaching us about what can happen when we just create with you, Papa God. And I want you just to let's ask Jesus a question. Jesus, do you love it when I create with you? And Jesus, what colors come to mind about my personality, about how you created me? What colors are you seeing in my life right now? Let him just reveal some colors to you. And what do you love about them, Jesus? It could be your smile. It could be anything. Okay, you can open up your eyes. And through this simple exercise, I want you to take out anything that you have. If you have paper, or you just have colored pencils, or if you have acrylics, or if you have watercolors, and just start to create what you see in the colors and the shapes. And if you want, get the salt out, whatever. I'm going to set my timer. You're going to have about 5 minutes to create. And Amani, whatever God said to you, go ahead and you can start to create that on your piece right now. And I'm going to set the timer. Ready, set, go. Here we go.
If you're a woman over 40 and you want to lose belly
Sorry.
fat, stop doing endless
No,
workouts.
oh my
Want-
goodness. There we go. Here comes some music for you. Okay, everybody, I'm going to call y'all back. Can you hear me, Amani? Yay? Okay. Share about your piece a little bit. What did you see?
Well, when you asked the questions, I just felt God like say how much he loves to create with me and just remind me of like how it feels playing with my kids. It's, the most joyful time is when you kind of let go of expectations and it's just about being together. And of course, the colors that I felt like he showed me, were these. It's like this vibrant, like, colorful expression of who I am. And I feel like that's something that he wants to draw out of me even more. And just especially in this season, like I felt like the pink was really about him, like calling out the beauty and just like the freedom of expression, I guess, like it being really bold and colorful and playful and fun. So
I love it. Oh my gosh. Give it up for Amani. Woo! Have you enjoyed today? Oh my gosh. Share this with your friends. We're going to be doing this every month, the first Tuesday of the month. We're going to be talking about art, and we have an incredible, awesome opportunity for all of you out there. If you wanted to learn how to grow, we have focus groups on Create Academy that really help you to grow. So right now at 10:30, we're going to have a focus groups talking about the art that you have done here. You can share your picture that you created, or if you want to learn more about being coached in art, we have a group that's starting at 10:30. How do you go and join Create Academy? All that you do is you go to theresadedmon.com. We'll put that in the chat right there. And you just go there and you scroll down to Create Academy, and then you just join there. And then as you do that, you'll be able to go to your dashboard that has the focus groups, and there's a Zoom link to join right in 30 minutes. And you get to see all that God can do in your life. So we'll be commenting on how you're growing. We'll be coaching some of you. We'll be helping you grow in your style, what you loved about Amani, what you loved about just this practice. And if you have any questions, we have trained artists that also practice the presence that will be able to help you grow. And so that's part of our heart, is not just to give you an art lesson like what Amani just did in the presence, but say, don't stop growing. We want to give you tips on how you can continue to grow. We want to help you. I mean, if Amani didn't have a community around her, she would not be doing what she's doing, coming with me to the YWAM base in Kona, painting on stage. This is all part of community. This is all part of what we need to grow. So take that little seed that you have and don't just bury it, but begin to grow it in community. And Amani, I would love for you just to pray for people right now. I mean, some of you, if you're just starting on this journey, we welcome you. We're so excited that you're a part of this journey. And my Create Academy leadership team, they want to help you grow in so many ways. But Amani, wow, I learned so much. I never have thrown salt. I've always had it on down here. I'm going to do that after this, guys. I'm going to practice. So Amani, go ahead and let's pray.
Oh God, thank you for what you're doing here today, and for the people that have come with hungry hearts and that want to dive into this process with you of co-creating. I just thank you that that's something that you love to release and love to activate in us, is the partnership with you in hearing your voice and expressing that on canvas or paper, or however our method is of creating. And I just ask God for deeper revelation and for an ease for people where maybe they've had some roadblocks of hearing you, that they would just begin to trust themselves in a new way, and that the fear of man and the fear of perfection would be able to just be silenced, and they'd be able to dive deeper into your presence and find joy and freedom as they create with you. Amen.
Amen. Woo! Oh my, isn't it funny? We have similar colors in our different, it just cracks me up. Well, Amani, thank you so much for joining, and I will see you in Hawaii on Saturday. It's going to be so much fun. And guys, share this with other people that need to know how to do a background, but also how to paint in the presence, and hear Amani's story. And for those of you, take a risk, join Create Academy, go to theresadedmon.com, scroll down, and we'll see you at 10:30 on our focus group to help you grow more in your art and in your heart to grow with God. Love you, Amani.
Love you.
See you soon. Bye.